everyone! Welcome back to our channel. My name is Patty.
And my name is Barry.
And today we're going to be talking about something a little bit personal to me, a little bit personal to the both of us actually. We're going to talk about what is anxiety. So this particular thing is a little bit of a misunderstood concept everywhere, not just here in Indonesia, but I feel it a little bit more evident when I first moved here. I felt like not a lot of people really knew what was going on, not a lot of people understood what it was, and I think we could just give you a little breakdown of what it is first. Everyone suffers from anxiety. It's not a disease, it's not a sickness, it's not an illness, you're not crazy because you have anxiety. It's a common thing and everyone faces all sorts of levels. You might suffer from it terribly, where you have anxiety almost all the time, or you might suffer from it just normally, where you have anxiety in normal circumstances. Anxiety is different to everyone. For me personally, it's the feeling of fear, the feeling of overwhelmingness, the feeling of nothing can go right, no matter what situation I'm in. That's what anxiety means to me. What does anxiety mean to you?
For me, anxiety means when everything is out of your control. It can be when you are so perfectionist that you want everything to really go well. I mean, really go well, not only well in terms of simply well, but you want everything to be under your control, while in fact that actually you cannot really have it all under control perfectly.
My definition of anxiety is different from Barry's definition of anxiety, and our definition of anxiety is different from anyone else that might be facing it. It doesn't mean that it's not what it is, and then it doesn't mean that it is what it is. Does that make sense? Particularly today, we're going to be discussing what it's like to be dating within the whole anxiety spectrum. Of course, both of us have gone through anxious times, but in this particular relationship, I go through it almost every week, almost every day of every week, and sometimes it's a bit of a struggle to stay in our path of our relationship. Sometimes it can sort of drive us crazy, especially towards someone who doesn't really feel it as much as I do. So maybe we can just start talking about what it's like to be in this sort of relationship and sort of explain how we got through it and how we're continuing getting through this struggle that we're facing.
So dating someone with a full-on anxiety can be really hard because sometimes you just don't know what to do. You just don't know how to handle them, because there might be something that you do that you thought is right for them, but it is not. It is more than motivating people. It is more than encouraging them to do something. It's not as simple as that. What you need is actually being there, like being beside them, listening to them. To be honest, this is my first time as well experiencing it, and I also learned a lot. I learned a lot of how to handle it.
I've been in relationships before where the other person didn't really understand what was going on with me, just took it as like, oh, this girl is being super sensitive or being super ridiculous, and it just doesn't make sense, that I was just being too much of a girl who had too much emotions, when in fact that's not what it is. Like if I could control how I react to certain situations or what certain people say, I definitely would love to control how I react to that, because this isn't me trying to get attention from my boyfriend. I don't want you to give me all the love. I'm just expressing myself the way that it just naturally occurs, and that is sometimes what happens when you do have anxiety. It's a reaction that you have towards something that happens. So I think that's the biggest misconception of what anxiety is. Lots of people misinterpret it. It's more of like getting a clear, full understanding of what it is in order to face it not perfectly. You can't face anxiety perfectly, but just face it with a clear mind.
Also, it is really helpful to me because actually she takes some time to sit and actually talk to me and make me notice that this anxiety happens. It actually is really powerful and really helpful because now I know, okay, that this is anxiety. This is how it looks like. Like the openness that we have right now, it's really helpful. I know what's a problem that she's facing, and I can at least prepare myself.
A common thing when you are dating with someone with anxiety is probably the fights that will occur, the drama that will occur. The best way to keep it intact is to stay honest, to have really open, honest communication with each other. You need to let the other person know what's going on. You need to let the other person know how you're feeling. And from there, how the other person reacts to it, that's all up to them. If you have someone that reacts to it like, girl, you're crazy, then you need to take a moment and think about that relationship. But if you have someone who sort of understands in a not the same way as like, oh, I understand how you feel, but sort of takes what you're saying into consideration, then that's definitely a keeper, because this sort of thing is not something that you can research. I don't think you can really Google like how to handle someone with anxiety, because like I said before, anxiety is a huge spectrum, and lots of people react to anxiety a different way. And so there's not a specific correct way to react to someone who is going through whatever they're going through.
Actually, how to start understanding it is by Googling it, especially for some people who doesn't know it at all.
Yeah.
Like, I think the best way to start is to get your knowledge and to get your identification rate ready for what anxiety is and what are the symptoms and what is the do's and don'ts, because that is your first exposure to this kind of knowledge.
But that's what I meant when I said you can't really Google it. Yeah, perhaps you can Google it in the sense of like to get a better understanding of what it means to have anxiety or to feel anxious. But the do's and don'ts that you see on like websites, that's just bullshit. Like,
Well, I mean,
because that's what I'm saying. It's such a big spectrum that everyone reacts to it a different way. So if, let's say, you know what I'm going through, you do something for me, it works for me. But if you, let's say you dated someone else with the same anxiety and you react the same way, it might not work for them. That's what I meant when like you have to keep really open and honest communication. For me, it's super hard to do that because when I am feeling that way, I sort of just shut down and I just want to be by myself. I don't want to talk about it. I just can't be expressive in that moment in time. But that doesn't help either myself or your partner, because he doesn't know what's going on. And if he does say something, it might trigger it even worse, and we don't want that to happen. So when you are feeling that, you sort of have to push and fight and swim through all of the anguish that you're feeling and sort of just express to him like, hey, I'm feeling this certain way right now, and I need some time alone because that will help me. That's what I mean about honest communication, because that person can't read your mind. So you need to tell him what you need. And I'm pretty sure if he does care about you, he will oblige, give you the space you need or whatever it is. He will oblige. But you need to keep being honest. You need to keep being open. And don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid of what that other person might think of you. Because this is where the relationship stands. You know that it's going to last, or it might have a future, on how that person reacts to what you're going through at that moment in time. So be open as possible. We've been dating for almost 2 years now, and honestly, this is one of the best relationships I've ever had, not because I'm currently still in it, but because of how he reacts towards how I react to things. So in the past, I've had boyfriends who didn't react very well to my anxiety. But this time around, Barry has been so patient and so brave, because this is probably a scary thing to handle sometimes when you have to go through it with your significant other. And he's been so kind, and I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to be talking about a little bit of what we do for each other in order for us to continue this relationship the way that it's going without it completely falling apart. Because when you do suffer from anxiety, it's easy to have all of your relationships fall apart, not just your romantic relationships, but this is also in terms of friendships, and then parent relationships, and all sorts of relationships that you may have in your life. So for me personally, the number one thing is, when I am feeling this way, I am just completely brutally honest, and I tell him to leave me alone. And I think that's the key. Like, maybe it starts off with being a little bit moody, just not being present in our chat, or like if we're together, I'm just not really responding very frequently or quickly or the way that I would normally. And I think from there he would know, like, something is going on, what is happening. Sometimes he would try to dig and dig until I finally answer him and tell him what's wrong. But sometimes there are moments when there's just like, you can't really even explain it, you can't even put into words what is wrong at that moment in time. So all I have to do is just tell him, like, babe, you need to leave me alone for like a few minutes, or sometimes even like a full day, so that I can really get my headspace where it belongs. Because often when you're facing a relationship or facing someone with the headspace that you're in, and usually when you're feeling anxious, it's a very negative headspace, then it can lead to a bunch of arguments, a bunch of fights, and you'll end up saying things that you regret, you'll end up hurting the other person, and we don't want that. So it's best to just sort of leave it alone until you feel a lot better and that you're in a better headspace. So for me, that's what works personally, is like, give me space, that's one thing. And if that person tells you to give her space, then bro, you give her space. You don't feel any negative towards that. You just give her what she wants, because this is what she needs.
Sometimes a case like this can be risky, because this is a process of learning for me as well. And sometimes when she told me to give me some space, and then I might think that, is she being sensitive? Does she really want me to give space, or does she want my attention? So which one? But then again, just like what Patty said, from this open communication, I can learn and I can notice things, and I can gather my knowledge of figuring out what are the possibilities that can affect how she's feeling. And then from there, I can notice as well, if she wants me to give her space, then I give the space. It is risky. It's like a game, because you're getting to know, you're getting to know the signs, you're getting to know how your partners are feeling. If you really do care about your significant other, or whoever it is, if you really care about them, you would want to be their moral support. You want to be someone who they will speak to when they have some problems, including anxiety. Persistency is the key sometimes, because it can be really hard, but we managed to do it. And here we are, almost 2 years.
But we're not here to tell everyone, like, this is definitely gonna work for you, because even with us, it's still a trial and error sort of thing. We're still, like Barry said before, we're still learning, but it's the fact that we want to learn, that we're in it to win it, you know? We're in it for the long haul, and so that means we have to go through all of the lows that we will face together, through all of this anxiety that not only I feel, but Barry also goes through it. And I think that's one of the hardest parts, is when we both are going through it at the same time, and it's like we sort of don't know what to do from there, because it's all just negative headspace all around. You know, just stay patient, stay loving, don't let this ruin your life. Don't let it get in the way of what could potentially be such an amazing experience, such an amazing relationship. I know it's such a struggle because that's the thing. We have anxiety and it's like it stops us from doing the things we want to do, and that's what's frustrating. But one thing that we need to take away from it is that it's something that is hard, but we are all strong. This isn't a disease, this isn't an illness. We can't take medicine to make it go away. We can only just remind ourselves that we're living our life and we need to live it the way that God meant us to live it. Remind ourselves that we are stronger than this anxiety thing. We are more than this anxiety thing. And I think this is something that is really important and crucial to talk about, especially in Indonesia, where not a lot of people are aware of the situation. Not a lot of people actually understand what this means. What is it translated in Bahasa? Do you know it?
Anxiety. It's like anxiety. Anxious. Sungkan is it like No. Sungkan is segan gitu.
Right.
It's like worry, anxiety. Yeah, worry, khawatir, anxiety, anxious, khawatir, like
right.
Sort of khawatir.
So there's not even a precise word for it. Let's try to be brave and speak up about it, because a lot of people need to know about the situation. A lot of people need to be educated about what it means, about how to handle it and how to treat people that are going through this. Please, please, please share this video. Let other people know in this country what it means to have anxiety and what it doesn't mean to have anxiety. We never know how to end the video, so we're just gonna say bye.
Tater thoughts.
Bye.
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 Bye.